Hi, everyone.
Hello, everyone. It is what day is it today? I don't even know.
August 4th, yes, of 2021 here in the Coachella Valley. And my name's Dr. Krista Burris.
And I am Dr. Michael Kim, and we are here at Coachella Valley Direct Primary Care, and we are doing our show.
Yes, this is the update on COVID for our area for the coronavirus, the Coachella Valley.
Um, well, how are you today?
I'm doing good. Sort of surviving in the heat at that 119 today. It's a little high for me. How about you?
Oh man, it is hot out there, and it is humid out there, and it is no joke out there. So
Right.
stay
So stay
cool.
cool.
Drink lots of water if you're going to exercise at least half hour before. Um,
And I do recommend if you're going to be exercising outside to do it either very early or very late in the day. To, stay out of that midday portion if you can.
And if you have friends coming in the valley, just warn them. It's you
Yeah.
can't just come from somewhere and then think you can hike or do whatever, play golf. It is a different climate here. So
Yeah. So hang in there, everyone.
right.
So today we're going to talk a bit about what's going on with COVID. Of course, if you've been paying any attention to us or to recent media news, you'll have heard about the Delta variant. And we're going to talk a little bit about how that has been affecting our county in the Coachella Valley and talk a little bit about the numbers are going up, but what does it really mean? Is this the same implication that we had last fall when we started to see our numbers rise? Are we heading into the same kind of winter that we had last year? So we'll take a look at that. So first, I wanted to show y'all sort of where we were as far as our case rates locally, and we'll go to our first slide. What this is the county's daily update on how we're doing. And what you'll see here is that our positivity rate is holding at just under 10%. So that means 1 out of every 10 tests that are being done are coming back positive. This is a significant increase. It's about 3 times higher than it was a month ago. And it's now, we would be considered in the substantial transmission, high transmission tier again, unfortunately. Our case rate also has, it's gone up 6 times, maybe 7 times higher than it was a month ago. And we're at just under 20 per 100,000 case rate. And again, if you remember where we were when things were looking pretty nasty last winter, we were at about 40. So we're kind of halfway back to where we were at the worst of the surge in the winter as far as our number of cases. And we'll see that when we look at the rest of the slides. Let's look at the next slide. This is a weekly update for the county, and unfortunately, the county only puts these out once a week, and they put them out on Wednesdays, and they haven't updated it for the week yet. So these are the numbers that were reported last Wednesday, and they were reported after last week's show. So again, we're getting this a bit late. And these are numbers that have been crunched and they've had time to sort of report them out. So when you look at these numbers, remember that we're looking at a snapshot of how things were about 2 weeks ago. And since then, we've continued to see increases in cases. So this is a little bit delayed snapshot we're looking at here. And what we saw is an increase in the new weekly cases to 1,200. And I think we're well beyond that this week. So we'll see when it comes up later today where we are. But I really do feel like these numbers are more indicative of where we were several weeks ago than currently. And then let's go down. a bit. So in this current hospitalizations, we just kind of went past it. We were at 226 last week. Currently, our current hospitalizations are over 300. They're in the mid 300s, and our current ICU census is almost 80. So you'll see we're just really ramping up our numbers at this point. Okay, so now let's go down to the bottom. Sorry, Jeff. A lot of graphs today. I can't help it. I'm like graph happy. Um, oh, okay. So here we go to our ages of the people getting sick. Go up a little. I think it's the graph above this. One more up, one more. There we go. So what you'll see here is who's getting sick. And what's interesting to me, honestly, is that, we hear a lot about the most of our cases are in young people, right? People are saying, oh my goodness, all the young people now are out and about getting sick. But if you look at our trends over time, you'll see that purple line, which is our 25 to 44-year-olds, has always been the highest number of cases. And that's partly because that's a lot of people in that age group. And then our second highest number is our 45 to 64. And the good news is that our over 85 crowd continues to have very low rates. But what we should notice is our 0 to 17 case rates have steadily increased over this whole pandemic. So that's that light mint green line. And this, again, is something that is a little concerning that it's continued to go up over the summer when the kids have been out of school. I'm curious to see what'll happen when we're really back in full-time school with everyone back in the classroom. We'll kind of have to keep an eye on that because this is for the most part, unvaccinated group because people under age 12 can't be vaccinated yet. So we have this large group of vulnerable, non-immune people who are about to go back into a crowded indoor facility in the setting of high transmission rates with a more contagious virus variant. So not an ideal scenario for them. All right, let's go down to the bottom. And this is our county data on over time. And what we're looking at here is our number of cases. And then that yellow line is the positivity rate. So if you look at the left side of the graph, you'll see numbers like 5K, 10K. Those are the number of cases that were being identified. And then if you go to the right side, you'll see numbers like 5, 10, 15. That's the positivity rate. So that's how many of those tests are coming back positive. So you'll see that our testing rates have actually sort of stayed about the same over the summer. We're doing about the same number of tests, but that yellow line has taken a dramatic increase up. So we're actually not testing substantially more than we were, but our positivity rate has gone from down around 2 to 3% to up closer to 8%. So that's a real change, and something that shows us that we're heading into more of a higher transmission period of time. Okay, so let's go on to the next slide. And these are our local sort of Coachella Valley numbers. So if we go the top there, what we'll see is that these are the number of hospitalizations at Eisenhower. And remember, we have 3 hospitals in the valley. I picked Eisenhower because it's publicly publishes its data, and they have an epidemiologist there who puts out some great work. So we get these nice graphs that are helpful to look at. And this is looking at Eisenhower's hospitalizations over the course of the pandemic. And she very helpfully put in some markers where we can sort of see where we were in time. And you'll see that our hospitalizations more recently haven't really gone up a tremendous amount. We're nowhere near where we were in the winter, but we have seen sort of this steady increase. And so we're not in danger right now, I don't think, of getting close to overwhelming the capacity of our hospitals. But, and I'm going to talk about this in a little bit. There is another problem with increasing hospitalizations that doesn't have anything to do with capacity of ventilators or rooms or anything. So let's go down one more and look at this. This again is mirroring what we're seeing on the county level, and this is locally, is that the number of tests that we're doing has been about the same over the past couple months, but the percent of those tests coming back positive has taken a dramatic increase recently, and that is by and far Delta variant starting to spread through the valley. So that's
Right.
what we have now, basically.
Right.
So let's wait on that last slide and talk a little bit about what we just saw. Um,
So I would say, the difficulty is we can't take the Delta variant and put it on the Alpha variant uh, models and predict exactly what Delta will do.
well, Alpha variant wasn't the initial one. That so you put
Okay.
it on the wild type.
Whatever variant we used to have, this is a different.
The original one.
This is a different animal, so you can make some predictions, but you can't like say, well, we already been through all this and we know what's going to happen. So that's the difficult part of this.
Yeah. So when we look at this increasing transmission rate, primarily in people in that less than 60 age groups, and in children, the question is, so what? So if we've primarily vaccinated all of our oldest people, do we need to worry about high rates of transmission in the community if most of our high risk people have been vaccinated? And I think that's a legitimate question. It's like, do we need to do everything that we did the first time around when we're facing a new surge? And I think the answer is probably not, but we need to be cautious, because it is true that if this virus moves through at a high rate and infects thousands of people in the Coachella Valley, we're going to have dozens of deaths. And some of those deaths are going to be in healthy young people. And most of those deaths are going to be in people with underlying health conditions or immunocompromised state because of chemotherapy or other immune problems. So we are going to see some deaths in our valley because of the Delta variant moving through in higher numbers. So that is still true. Will we see ICUs overwhelmed? I don't think so, because we do have a fair number of our local community vaccinated. So even though people may be testing positive, a portion of those positive tests are also going to be vaccinated people who will not be at the same risk for hospitalization. So they're going to be more protected. But we do not have the same healthcare system that we had a year and a half ago. We have a healthcare system that's just gone 10 rounds in the boxing ring with Muhammad Ali. We have critical staffing shortages in many places. We have low staff morale and frustration on many levels in the healthcare system. And so we do not have the same ability to respond, I think, that we did in the fall of 2019.
Well, and I also think that because this Delta variant can be a fast mover, it's harder to staff, because if your staff is now getting quicker, sicker, faster, in terms of, okay, this person had it, and then okay, then maybe 14 days the other person. No, if two people get it, three people get it, it's harder to staff, right? So, and that means the staff also has to be more diligent on their off time, because it's usually not, you don't usually get it at work. It's out of work. Now, it's not true for some people if you work in the ER, ICU, certain places, but for many places, even, people who work professionally, it's most likely you're going to get it on when your guard is down than when your guard is up. And so I do agree with you. I think staffing is going to be an issue. We're already, most businesses, just whether it's healthcare or not, have staffing shortages as it is. And so I think that's another variable in the mix.
Right. And this is one reason why I feel like the resistance to wearing masks is counterproductive, because if everyone has masks on, that lowers the amount of virus in the environment, which lowers the risk for everyone,
right,
vaccinated or not. And we not only have the risk of people getting sick, people dying, but also effects on businesses from staffing shortages and people not being able to come to work because they're sick or because they've had an exposure and need to quarantine or care for someone who's ill. So this is kind of a difficult scenario because we're seeing a higher breakthrough rate of people getting COVID even after vaccination with Delta variant. They're not getting as sick. Their risk of dying is extremely low, but they can still catch it at a higher rate than with the previous variants. So because of that, we backtracked a lot. And, you and I have talked at length about our frustration with the CDC sort of whiplash guidance and constantly changing things, because it isn't fair for businesses and people to like make these policy shifts and then 2 weeks later have to shift back. I really feel people's frustration.
No. And I think I like to look at it like the Titanic, right? I mean, the ships, these large ships can't turn as fast as a small motorboat. And so if you see the iceberg and you turn and you got the ship turning, yeah, it scraped the side and we got some damage. And we're like, oh, okay, there's no more, I don't think there's any more icebergs out there. But you're like, maybe you don't turn the ship back to the same direction until you're absolutely sure there's no more icebergs left. Yes, you can get some indications. So I think what you're saying, I agree, is that we need to pick a lane and say, this is what we're going to do as a course, and only extreme changes will change that, rather than, hey, it looks like things are going better, let's turn, and then we gear up the whole economy back one way and everything, healthcare, oops, again, let's turn. And I think people are getting fatigued by the turning itself.
It's like, okay, we recommend masks. Okay, now masks are mandated. Okay, now if you're vaccinated, you don't have to wear masks, or maybe you do. Okay, now you do again. And honestly, I just left my mask on the whole time.
Right.
Because
I think if we pick that, we learn to live with that. We don't change. Yeah, we all love to not do this anymore, but it's better than flip-flopping back and forth, because then people are going to be like, well, forget about it.
Yeah.
So.
And I do understand that frustration.
Yeah. Do you want to go to the next
slide?
slide?
Let's look at our last slide. And this is a reminder of that both vaccines, masks, washing hands, everything is part of the way we protect ourselves. There is no one thing that will protect you 100%. And so remembering that this approach is how we slow down and minimize transmission until we have a chance to sort of improve many things, including getting more of our population vaccinated, getting the data back on what to do about children, getting the Delta variant under control, lowering our general transmission, restaffing our healthcare industry, which is going to take at least a year. I mean, there are just all these things that should just be part of our routines now. So if you're sick, stay home. If you're around other people who are not in your social bubble, especially if you're inside, wear a mask. Hand hygiene, covering your cough, all these things, sneezing, not touching your face. If you're going into a very crowded area, um, don't linger if you don't need to. And then being able to test, I think we've done a good job. We have a system in place now where we have good tests, we have rapid tests, we have home tests, we have our PCRs now are readily available and still free. So I feel like testing as a country, we've done pretty good on that. Um, but where we haven't done well, I think, is overall consistency in messaging, and also um, sort of more uptake on vaccine in certain areas. I feel like there's still we have pockets of work to do on helping people feel comfortable and reassured about the vaccines.
Right. And what I like about this is, there's personal responsibility and shared responsibility. And so, if I want this economy to go better, if I want to be able to go to Disneyland without hassles, if I wanted to go to the movie theater, I need to take part in the shared responsibility because I don't live in the country by myself, right? So if I just cared about myself, I'll stay in my personal responsibility lane. But then I can't complain about, well, why is this not occurring all out there? Well, if you want that to happen, then we live together with what, 200, 300 million people plus. We all have to do some basic things when certain things occur. And this is one of those things where we just have to take shared responsibility if we want to move the country in a certain direction. Otherwise, we get to where we are, where this is going to continue to linger and linger and linger. And it will burn itself out eventually, but it's
Yeah.
going to be long term.
Yeah, the difference that we're looking at is, are we going to squish this in another year, or are we going to squish this in another 10 years? And 5 to 10 years. And the answer to that question is how fast we control it in other countries. And so that's not really something we're getting into now, but
No, but we have to do I mean, the argument is, well, if other countries don't do it, why do we do it? Well, then we just give up.
yeah,
I don't
no,
think we do that.
no.
I think we have to control our own space, our own little part of our country, right? Our own little part of the world. The United States does what it does, and if it's not enough, well, it can't be because we didn't do enough, right? Then, if we didn't do enough, what hope does some other country that's much
Yeah.
smaller than us have?
I think we get our house in
Yeah,
order, and then we help our
yeah,
communities and world recover as well.
yeah,
And that is what we do in disasters, and this is a natural disaster.
right.
Um, so we have a disaster. It's worldwide, and it's it's not a 1 year problem, which is just very depressing to think about. But um, we're in a lot better
Oh yeah,
position than we were last year.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So I would say I would like to say, if I had the messaging power, I'd say this Swiss cheese is the message, right? Doesn't matter if Delta comes and goes. Doesn't matter if Lambda comes and goes. Doesn't matter if our levels go down or up. This is where we stay. This is the course. This is the message. It can be nuanced. You can certainly mess with that, but in general, I think this is where we need to be until we get our population as a whole more vaxxed, until the healthcare system gets more of a cushion and a recovery. And like you said, has time to rest because it just went through 10 rounds with Muhammad Ali. Then we can think about changing the messaging. But I think if we yo-yo back and forth, it's just going to add more fatigue and frustration for everyone. But that's just
Yeah.
my thoughts. So.
No, I agree. I do think that we also don't have really good therapeutic option yet for COVID. Um, something that could be a game changer in how damaging this was if we had a good treatment for it. And when people came into the hospital and were looking very sick, we could give them something that could turn things around. Right now, we really just we have some things that help a bit, and some things that help some people a lot, but not everyone. Um, so we have some options, but we don't yet have that you know thing that's going to help most people.
Right. So I know we've gone over time and we have another show. So we will do our other show, your health. But we just wanted to give a little update because things have changed a little bit. So
Yeah. So, this is kind of a roller coaster of a pandemic, I guess. And we're on another upswing, but hopefully it won't be quite as high, and we won't have the huge numbers of deaths that we had last winter.
yeah. So hang in there. It doesn't mean you have to hunker down again. This is not the shut everything down moment. So
But it is keeping on. It's not time to stop everything
yeah,
either.
for sure. All right. Thanks everybody.